Tonight we are joined by Pietro, we're joined by Davide as well, who are going to talk to us about health tech and AI. You all know Pietro, he is one of our fellows for the Doctors in Industry fellowship program that we have going on here in Medic Footprints, and he is also a co-founder of a startup and doing a PhD in AI and also still practicing clinically. So yeah, a man that wears many hats, and he's joined us tonight with his co-founder Davide Ferreira, which I will give the floor to you guys to introduce yourselves, introduce your work, and open up for tonight's session.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Ola, and welcome everybody. We have been asked to give you this nice small talk about how to develop your doctor niche in AI, and so. When I've been asked that, I decided to invite Davide because Davide is one of my closest friends and also is we are creating together a couple of interesting projects and we are both really into the AI world. So the idea of tonight is that we have 1 hour and I'm a doctor. I'm going to introduce Davide briefly, but he's from the other side. He's a software engineer. So I think that the best would be for all of us to have a nice conversation all together instead of us just frontally giving you information, because I think that there is so much on the topic of AI in healthcare that I'm sure that you can have a lot of questions, and we are more than happy to try to share our knowledge. So that's the idea that we would like to approach. Starting from the introduction, I will start with a brief introduction of who am I. Let me just share my screen briefly, and that's it. So, as has been said before, so do you see the presentation?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So that's where you see it should be this one.
It's coming.
Okay, fantastic. So my name is Pietro Rina. I come from Italy. I'm a consultant in critical care and anesthesia. 5 years ago, I had this idea to actually move from Italy to UK to continue as a researcher because I was still believing in academia by then. And and so I've done quite at the beginning I was doing research that was really far away from the data world. I was doing development of new drugs for sepsis. Then COVID happened, everybody became in love with data, and I discovered the world of data, statistics, and then from that I started a PhD at UCL that I'm finishing now. And the topic of my PhD is around the application of AI and machine learning, so techniques of predictive AI in this case, to predict the outcome post-surgery. And during this period of study, I actually met Davide, which is a PhD, is a software engineer from Modena, and I'm gonna get you introduce yourself, but is also doing a PhD in AI at the moment at the King's College. And he actually saved my life because he developed a new type of machine learning that make my crappy PhD looking something interesting. So I have to say thanks, Davide, for being present, because without you, my PhD would not be available. So Davide, if you want to give us a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, so I'm just about finishing my PhD here at King's, and I have a quite eclectic past, but more recently in the last few years, I studied software engineering and data science, and so I fell in love with medicine when I was volunteer paramedic back in Italy, and I decided, well, let's try to merge these two things together. And there have to be a crossing between computer science, data science, and medicine. And at the time, I was not really aware of the entire domain, and I was still learning. And I came to learn how big and interesting it is. So I also came to know that here in the UK, differently from Italy, these joint efforts in research and industry between domains like medicine and data science are very much regarded and interesting and well funded. And so I had the opportunity to come here to London to do a PhD in that. And during which I developed a machine learning methodology to approach very challenging problems, and applying the methodology to healthcare prediction models, like the prediction of mortality, the prediction of antimicrobial resistance, and many others. So now, yes, we met with Pietro for a strange occurrence of events, and we got together. We found out that we had the same aspirations, and our competencies merge very, very well, and we could help each other during each other's PhD. And so we are here today.
Yeah, thanks, David. So the fact is that while we were working together and we were actually learning one from another, we found that we were having a shared passion about applying AI outside of the proper clinical world. And we decided to start to look into the new AI that we're going to explore together in the next couple of minutes. And after months of thinking, idea, etc., we actually founded together what was our first startup. That, spoiler, is already closed. That was called the White Carta. The idea was actually to use our knowledge in AI to leverage some of the classical work of a doctor and etc. And I think that we can start from here, because what I'm interested is starting to know from the small audience. If somebody want to try to answer, what do you think can be one of the first way that AI can help you your daily job? Because as a doctor, or also in support of other type, because we have been so hyped, and we are all together in this AI world, that I'm interested in see what you think about that, and then we can start with our presentation. Does somebody want to try? Okay, Gordon.
For me, clinical triage would be really helpful. So when all the patients ring up at 8 a.m. in the morning, giving us a brief summary of their problem, if you had AI sort of working out what's urgent, what's less urgent, because at the moment we've got clinicians doing that and sharing it out over the course of the week.
Okay, that sounds like
triaging.
A way to save time.
Mm.
Any other idea? Don't be shy. We are gonna go through all the possibility tonight. Aria, if I said that right.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's Hadia, but it's fine. Right, I'm a dermatologist by profession, and what we have used in my specialty was about coming up with acronyms, which was great and helpful, especially to educate, residents or trainees. We also tested it when it comes to education itself. I mean, patient education, then rectifying that. And there are several studies that have been published in the European Journal of Dermatology as well on that, which was very interesting. I know a team who are trying to come up with a chatbot that is linked with AI to tackle up skin of color. So that was interesting as well for me as a dermatologist.
Fantastic. Any other idea? That was really interesting, the one about acronyms. So you were using AI to find the acronym. Okay, that's actually something that I never heard before. That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
In Obs and Gynae, they used AI to help with CTG interpretation.
Okay.
And just for potential ideas, anything to try to like reduce administrative burden. So if there was something to help with like note taking, I've seen some things around, but yeah.
Okay, so I see that everybody is already starting to see some initial idea. It's like when I like to say that is like comparing Napster to what is gonna be to Netflix. At the end of the day, they are similar technology, and I think that in AI at the moment we are in the Napster phase, And so we don't know what is going to happen in the next 10 years. But so let's start from basic. Davide, I'm going to let you introduce the word of AI in medicine. So we create a foundation, please.
Yeah, so we thought about introducing to you a few of the concepts and the keywords that are common and that you will encounter for sure when dealing with the AI domain. And starting with the basic definitions, and maybe you are already familiar with some of them: regression classification, forecasting in the concept of time series mostly, and segmentation, which happens in imaging application. Do any of you know what they are or they are not? I mean, do you need a particular explanation of some of these words? Do you do? Okay, I see nodding. So I may not see all of you because you're sometimes hidden, and so please do speak up so I can catch all of you interacting. So regression, classification, forecasting, and segmentation are some of the most widely used tasks that machine learning and AI algorithms are trained to do. And so regression is the prediction of a numerical value, whatever it is. It is always about the difference is technical, right? And so, for example, if you have a numerical value like the age or the risk of something to happen, or the weight or the BMI, any numerical value that is not categorical, let's say that is a continuous variable, can be considered into a regression problem, okay? Whereas classification, as you may get from the word, is used when you have a certain amount of very precise grouping of something. For example, when you have positive or negative patients to some pathology or to some disease, okay, that's a binary classification. That means there are two classes, one that has the pathology and one that doesn't have the pathology. Or you may have more than one classes, okay, and you may think, I want to classify patients into a severity degree of pathology. So there may be, a different, larger number of groups in which you want to classify things. It can be classification outside the medical domain. Is just also to say, oh, this is the picture of a dog, and this is the picture of a cat, and this is a laptop, and this is a house. So classification is to say, I assign to you a label. And so it's about, discriminating between groups. And forecasting is a word that we use oftentimes when we think about time series. And so when we think about how things will evolve in the future over a period of time, oftentimes regression and classification are punctual, so at a precise moment in time. For example, I have an image of a chest x-ray and I want to see whether the patient has a pneumonia or not, and so I say, yes, the patient has or doesn't have a pneumonia now in this moment, at least at the moment of the image was taken. Forecasting is an overview of how things evolve over time, okay? And segmentation is a popular task that is used in imaging to identify portion of an image that represent something. And so you can have an image, Pietro may be better than me to make examples, and you can say, oh, this part of the image is the heart, this part of the image are the lungs, this part of the image is a bone, and so you can, oh, this part of the image is a tumor that may be more interesting for a diagnostic purpose. And so the idea would be to split the image into its component and learn how to recognize element of that image, so that when you look at it, the machine will already guide you into understanding which part of the image is what. And this is very useful for diagnostic purposes and for the education purposes, so people can learn and see where things are. And so regardless of what we do and what is the type of task that we want to create, we have always to start from why we are using AI, right? Because AI and machine learning, we will use these two terms interchangeably for the moment. AI and machine learning are tools to solve problems, and no one say that they are always the best tool to use, and sometimes they're not. But when we want to use AI and machine learning, oftentimes we do it for a series of well-defined purposes. Oftentimes they are the diagnostics of patients, the prediction of an outcome of a patient that can be important for the assessment of a patient, or understanding and monitoring the patient, and indeed the monitoring itself. And so we can keep track on the evolution of the patient, try to predict in time, as time goes on, how the patient will likely evolve in the future. So we try to have a peek into the future of the patient as best as we can to see what is the direction. Will the patient improve? Will the patient get worse? Can I prevent something with the insight that I can get from the machine learning? And so, please go ahead, Pietro.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. And so these are well, just two examples we wanted to put here to show you and to tell you the kind of questions that we may want to ask ourselves when developing machine learning for the healthcare domain and for diagnostic purposes. The first one, mortality risk prediction post-surgery, is particularly interesting for us because it's the core element of Pietro's PhD thesis, and together we developed a machine learning approach to predict the mortality risk in patients in ICU after the surgery. And the way we do that is to use the data before the surgery of the patient to predict what will likely happen after the surgery. And so we try to have an idea on the future of the patient, so that earlier we can understand if there's something wrong, okay? And automatic identification of pneumonia from a chest X-ray, but yeah, the fantasy is our limit, and every single clinical question you may have could be approached with a machine learning or an AI approach. Not that should, but could. And so we identified three main categories of how we can apply machine learning to the diagnostics and the clinical work, let's call it like that. And so we can focus on individual patients and do something that we call precision or personal medicine. And so we give prediction that are tailored and personalized for each patient, one at a time. And so that's one approach. The other approach is much broader, almost like epidemiological. And so we use the term targeted population medicine. And so we can understand, for example, how to predict the need of vaccines in a certain season of the year based on the last 10 years of records. And so we can understand how many resources in the healthcare domain will be needed at a certain moment in time based on the fluctuation over the year, for example, okay? And so we can understand which geographic areas can be more at risk of some kind of epidemic or something. And so this is a much broader population level kind of work. And we can also go towards a hybrid version of it, and so prevention and lifestyle we call it. And so it encompasses all the way we can monitor, for example, the individual. And there's a lot going on the fitness trackers that you put on your wrists, and you keep track of your own health, and there are some machine learning models that tells you, oh, you're doing good, you're doing bad, you should move, and these kind of things. And so they act both as a individual level because they give you some information for yourself, but also population level because you can understand a broader trend in the population, whether the population is going to be in a healthy, let's say, direction or not. And so we can work at all kind of level in the development of AI tools. Okay, let's go
Can
on.
I just do a quick note here? So I'm aware that 90% of us is thinking about ChatGPT, notes, etc. when we think about AI medicine. But actually, there is a lot of AI that is already using medicine. And I want to ask you one quick question. What do you think is the simple version of AI and machine learning that you're already using since a lot of years in your practice? who want to try to reply?
It's Epic with us, no? It's
Epic.
mhm.
No, Epic is an electronic health record who can do a little bit of machine learning, but the electronic reading of a ECG is already a super rudimentary but type of machine learning. It's just really super basic, and they built a lot. And if you imagine that we have this technology since 10 years, when you, as a doctor, you go outside in the broader world, in the industry world, and you start to think about, okay, what I'm going to do with AI, I'm actually starting to automate what I can do as a doctor using tools, as Davide was saying for us, that in this case we call predictive AI, because we use them to predict something, but it's pretty much what we do every time. So as an oncologist, as a surgeon, I tend to use my experience in a unconscious way, and I create my own machine learning model inside, right, based on my experience. And pretty much the machine learning is just taking a big data set and try to do the same in automatic way. So just for you to understand that AI is not only robot chatting with you, but is actually automation by a lot. Sorry, David. And
yeah, no worries.
Then the next phase is still for you, that you are the technique guy.
Yes.
What we are all looking for now is the...
Yes, so generative AI. So I think we decided to bring these topics today, dividing the idea of predictive AI and generative AI, because they are intrinsically different in the way they are conceived. And so when we talk about predictive AI, we refer to not that generative AI models are not doing predictions. They are, but the concept is different. When we call predictive AI, what we refer to is mathematical machinery, mathematical algorithms, and machine learning algorithms that are designed and exist to do one thing only, one thing at a time. So we create a machine learning model to predict mortality in intensive care patients post-surgery. And that's the only thing they do. And so this is a very tailored machine learning approach to one specific clinical question. When we talk about generative AI, on the other hand, we think about something that is more general purpose and can adapt to many different things and operate in a very different way. For example, you may all be familiar with the large language models, LLMs. So ChatGPT is a large language model. And the idea would be that I don't know if you are aware on how ChatGPT works, but basically it is a big machine learning model that predicts what is the next word in a sentence. So it's a sequence of words, and the machine learning model just tells you what is the next word based on the previous one. And so in theory, it completes for you a sentence that makes sense on what is being said, okay? And which is a totally different approach than what we just talked about, because it's not tailored to do one thing. It is more general purpose. It can serve many different and very useful tasks, but as a completely different concept. I create something new, okay, instead of tailoring to a specific task. Image generation is very similar. And I don't know if you ever tried algorithms like DALL-E, which is an open source, not an open source, free available approach from OpenAI and Microsoft again. And so you can type in a word of text or something, a description of an image, and this model would spit out an image that exactly is what you described, and you can ask many different variation and stuff. And recent advancements also produce videos, and so these are very sophisticated approach that generates from scratch by the input that you provide an image or a video of something, which is a completely different task from what we saw before. And we decided to also add something related to augmented and virtual reality. I'm aware that I think you are aware of what they are, and so it's always about you can have these goggles or I don't know exactly how to call them, some device that project in front of you, adding images, digital images in the space that you are surrounded by, or creating an entire new virtual space around you. And these in medicine are very widely used for a variety of purposes, like for rehabilitation and for education. So I see a hand.
Yeah,
Alia.
exactly. I saw that you have a
Yeah,
question.
Pietro, it's just a comment on what you said about DALL-E, because there are a couple of other AI and I've tried them all almost, and I don't think they're very realistic. I think they're a bit more whimsical, fantastic, like more of a fantasy thing. But I'm hoping that this is going to improve very soon. But the details in the images are very
Mm-hmm.
are amazing. So that was just a comment or
Yeah.
my opinion, personal opinion.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Sorry,
please,
you go ahead.
Davide, go.
No, I was saying, you're right, absolutely. And I think we should keep in mind that there is a lot of power and commercial dynamics here, for which these companies need to put out models to show that they are leading the domain. And oftentimes they put out models that are not perfect as we want them to be. But the point is they are trying to make people aware that these things exist and slowly getting people used to the idea of having these tools, and trying to stimulate their fantasy and their creativity on how to use these tools in an interesting way, right? And so that's right, that those images may not be as accurate, but also it depends on what is the goal of these models, right? And sometimes you just want a fun image, or you just want to showcase the fact that you now can create images. And then maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line, there will be a very good model that simulates photos. But you need time for people to digest the idea of having this opportunity, right?
Yeah, and Davide, according to a study, they've mentioned that maybe in a few years' time they will use it instead of, I don't know, real patients to create such images to train the residents or medical
Yeah.
doctors, which I find as well fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, there
You
is a
may have-
domain that is those of digital twins. Are you aware of that? And so creating digital patients that exist already, and maybe it will be improved with images and videos and digital replica of the 3D body, so you can practice on it without killing anybody. Pietro, you may have wanted that during your ICU residency.
In ICU, it's quite complex, but also for surgeon having that possibility to try something like a cricothyroidectomy that I never done one. I hope to never have to do one, but having the possibility to try virtual reality with a really good grade of realism would be great. But also chest drain, intubation, and you can imagine that Meta is putting a lot of effort in using the virtual reality with generative AI to provide surgeons with the tools to actually feel and understand, and having a lot of training outside of the hospital. But while we were talking about LLM, etc., I just wondered. I wanted to make you a question to everybody. Why do you think ChatGPT became so famous in such a short time? What's your? I mean, there is not a correct answer, but I have my own idea. But what's your idea about that? Does somebody want to try? I can share my own idea that I think is kind of idea.
I'm thinking maybe it's easy access and use. I mean, it was free and everyone can basically type in whatever, so it was very accessible to everyone, and this is the reason it became famous.
Exactly, that's the real reason. So it was the first time that you were using such a sophisticated product without needing any technical. You just need to be able to read and write. That I think pretty much on average it's achievable, and it was actually helping you to access so much. So the generative AI is actually extremely powerful because it's made for human. That's something that may sound weird. While all the predictive AI that is actually the father of generative AI, is a little bit more tricky. You need to learn how to code, etc. And that is important because this is why we saw so much the idea of applying generative AI to medicine. But generative AI, as David is going to show you, is still in his infancy. So we have to be extremely cautious. And David, I'm going to give you the word again about use generative AI.
Yes, I will not take too long to finish this slide, also because I would like to open a bit of the conversation if you want
Sure.
about the last two slides. So again, as we did before, we have to figure out why we want to use AI, and oftentimes we don't think about that, and we say, oh yeah, let's just isn't there an AI that does that? Why do we want to use AI? And it is always just a tool that solves a problem. And what are these problems in medicine, in healthcare? And we realized in the last year or so, exploring this domain with Pietro, that there are three main areas, not only three, but the main areas we think AI and generative AI will be more impactful in medicine and in other domains is, first of all, save time. That means automate tasks that take a long time for humans to do, to go through long documents, to summarize long documents, to fill in numbers, and a lot of tasks that manually are very long to take, and or that are very repetitive. And so that you can automate a lot, and you can use AI as a companion. For example, you mentioned someone mentioned, maybe Gordon, note taking, and so automating the taking of the notes during the patient visits, or the creation of a discharge letter. This kind of things that you do consistently all the time. You waste a lot of time, and you can automate to some degree their achievement, but also to reduce errors, because it's human error is always present. The good thing about AI is that it is never tired, and it can work 24/7 with the same level of performance. And this is something in one way or another we should leverage to some extent. And so reduce human errors is a great proposition that we have for AI. Alia.
I'm sorry I keep interfering, but I think I just saw in the news about a robot that committed suicide because he had to work from 9 to 5, and I don't know in which country this was, but it was hilarious.
Nah. Yeah, could be. It depends on how it was trained, I suppose. I don't know the news about that, to be honest. But yeah, if it was trained on the thinking and the behavior of humans, maybe that was possible. From what we know, AI doesn't have a conscience, doesn't have an understanding of itself, doesn't have an idea of what is happening. It's just predicting the next letter, the next word, literally, and then these things are translated into actions, maybe, but there is no sense of self. There is no sense of conscience for what we know. For also because it's difficult to define what is conscience in the first place. But just to go through these last few points and open up also to other people who have not talked so far. A couple of examples, not many, but there could be an infinite amount of the use of these the generative AI related approach. For example, stroke rehabilitation. A friend of mine is using virtual reality, not specifically using generative AI, but it can be implemented with generative AI for those people who have had a stroke and have impairment of their mobility, and they have to retrain their brain with neuroplasticity to move. And so they are using the virtual reality device to induce the brain to make movements. And the other, we just already talked about clinical notes taking and summarization. That could be really interesting to see in the real world. And there are many things already happening in that domain. And so it's not is not far away from a very wide adoption. Is Pietro disappeared? I don't know.
No, yeah.
Okay, so just one step back. I didn't
Sorry.
see your face anymore. And so even here we devised, identified 3 main categories that, in our opinion, are very interesting to keep an eye on. That are that of the workflow improvement, and so to save time and to improve the operation efficiency of the clinicians and every healthcare worker. Education, a lot of education to teach students, to teach using VR, AR, and to create images, to create clinical cases for students to practice on their diagnostic techniques and strategies, and also therapeutic to some point, where we can, I don't know, we can do a lot of stuff. We can, the startup of my colleague here at King's, she's moving to San Francisco now, is detecting depression using voice assistants, using Gen AI. And so there are thousands of things going on. And these are the main things we think are most interestingly in the next few years. So these 2 slides complete an overview of what we think are the most present AI approaches out there. Maybe maybe this is a good moment to try to have a conversation, to open up to people who have not talked so far.
I have
if
an
you have
idea.
something. Okay.
Because actually, we have a list of potential clinical application, and I think that what is important, because if you are here is because you are looking for something outside of the medical field, and what is going to happen is that you need to have a little bit of grasp of what AI can do. And the previous 2 slides were maybe a little bit academic, but just for you to have an idea, okay, I can predict, I can automate note, I can do that, because when you're gonna out there and you're gonna talk with somebody from industry, they usually lack completely the idea of what is needed in the hospital. That is something that you know really, really well. So you can take all your soft skill, all your hard skill as a doctor, and put that, okay, so I can automate this, and this is actually important more than this other part. So my question here is, you all have a background as a clinician. Why don't we do like a quick round, and we say, what could be an idea of a clinical application of AI in our everyday job that it can be also absurd? I can start from my side, and it would be nice to have like an AI who is actually taking the continuous flow of talking around the patient, and is actually creating the note for me while I'm visiting the patient. So I'm gonna save half of the time. I'm gonna see the patient, I'm gonna do everything, etc., and he's gonna write down and maybe ordering the stuff for me. There is already some a startup working on something similar. Lee, do you want to try with this?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to have something that I could literally say, order these blood tests, order this CT scan, that, and along with, and I know this actually already exists, but AI clinic note taking. I mean, our hospital in Plymouth is literally in the 1990s.
Okay.
And, I dictate a clinic letter. It gets typed really badly by my secretary, who sends it to me. I then correct all the spelling mistakes and all the bad words, and then send it back to her, and it goes out. I mean, it's utterly ludicrous that 2 people are involved in doing that.
Okay, that's a start. Lauren, do you want to say something?
Surely, I was just thinking the same thing about clinic letters. I was like, why are they typed separately? I thought of something. So I've got an obstetrics and gynecology background, and I was thinking about scanning babies for growth scans. If the AI could pick up the length of the bones, so you're not moving around so much, you could get a really accurate size of the baby, because that's really finicky.
Okay, that looks cool. Which kind of AI do you think it will be used in that case, based on what we saw before? Don't
So
worry.
it would be like a classification.
Yeah, exactly. It could be a regression classification, but
Yeah.
it's more predictive AI. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Nuala, any idea? Like something like an AI helping you in your...
Well, so I'm working in stroke at the minute, and like I always just think in the middle of the night, the stroke calls and things like that. it would be really great to have just like a computer system that would just read it, so we're not waking up consultants, we're not kind of going through things. If we can see like a large vessel occlusion and there's no bleed, we just go ahead and we give the lysis. You know, because that's always, I mean, obviously there has to be senior kind of support there in some way, but I know that my consultants are thinking in, you know, like 5-10 years time, there's probably going to be a lot of AI coming through to help out with that kind of thing.
Okay, that's great. I saw a nice meme the other day. It was like in three parts. The first one was Elon Musk saying in 2005 everybody's gonna have an automatic car. Then a radiologist saying in 2010 AI will replace radiologists. And then it was 2024, the radiologist going in his car, driving his car towards the hospital. So we have to be quite cautious because as we can see, yes, there are a lot of potential application that are already under study at the moment, and a lot is in radiology. So the main where the AI is most advanced at the moment, and when I say advanced, I mean that is pretty much in everyday clinics, is radiology, because the classification of images is all the technology and all the application of this technology to the clinics started 15 years ago. So they already went to the pre-study phase, and now there are a lot of mature not startup company that they are actually providing this kind of service around the world. And two examples are, for example, the mammography. Most of the mammography are pretty much automated. What is interesting here is that AI showed that it cannot be used without human. So they made a nice experiment, and they tried to see if it was possible to replace completely the radiologist in the mammography, and actually they saw that the AI was not increasing the amount, the precision, but using an AI and a radiologist was really good, because it was cutting in half the time of all the service. So what is interesting is that those AI most probably is not gonna replace doctor, but it's gonna help doctor to work faster. And another example is the in retinopathy, in ophthalmology. Like there are a lot of machine learning model created by Google that, if I remember right, that were actually developed to be used also in low middle income country to try to help people to have the right diagnosis and the right assessment. But let's remember, and this is where I want you to really help me out. So I'm gonna give you the pro and the cons of using AI, because I think those are the two most important things that we need to know when we go outside as a clinician and we say, yes, I talk AI, but that means that we only know what AI is good, but we must know where AI is really bad. And so let's see this together, because I think we all know, we already said 20 times, AI can automate, it works 24/7, it reduces the human cost, and it can reduce the cost over a long time. Let's be honest, some of these affirmation still needs to be proved. Like, we don't really know if the application of AI is gonna really reduce the cost. That needs to be implemented in the healthcare system properly. We need a lot of health economics on top of it. And also, we have to remember something about AI, independently from the type of AI, but implement an AI system in a healthcare system costs a lot of money, because you need the structure, you need the people who actually manage it, you need to be the people who develop the AI and who keep it up to date. Davide, you can expand on that if you want. But and also AI, I mean the generative AI especially, costs a lot from an energy point of view. So we have the NHS, that has the Green NHS organization that is trying to cut down the carbon footprint of NHS, right? And the NHS at the moment is producing the 4% of the CO2 in UK. If we think that we're going to have a ChatGPT in every computer of NHS, that 4% is going to increase at least to 8%. there was a study that came out a few days ago that Google, that is actually quite a green company, right? Their carbon footprint increased by 50% in the last 5 years since they started to do generative AI. Because generative AI doesn't come out of thin air. It came out from big server farm with big NVIDIA server that they consume a lot of energy, way much a lot of energy. So we have to be extremely honest with ourselves, and one of the issue could be an environmental issue, but also the generative AI, but also the predictive, they have what is called hallucination. So do you ever use ChatGPT and that just created something out of they just created something like write an email about myself saying this, and then you just became like oh, Pietro Arena is from New York and is actually is from Puerto Rico on background, and is a rheumatologist, and was like, thank you, but this is not me. And that's one of the main big issue that maybe, Davide, do you want to give a little bit more of concept about this hallucination?
Yeah, so hallucination is a concept that was particularly brought to the eyes of people with these latest large language models, because it was just so easy to generate stuff and to see how the generation of this content was severely related, or at least the quality of the generation of these models was severely related to the quality of the data that the model was trained on and the quality of the user input to the models. And so many times the example that Pietro made is exactly what an hallucination is. So letting the AI model, which I remind you, that is just predicting the next word, is very easily tricked by a context that is not exactly what you mean. And so generative AI tools may start writing something that is completely nonsense. There's nothing to do with what you're trying to do. For example, I was making experiments using Gen AI models, using Llama, the large language model open source published by Meta, and I was doing some analysis of database of synthetic data, nothing special, just numbers, and to give me the sum of these column, and let's see how many items do I have of that particular group. And the system of AI I was using is called agentic AI. That means agents, so software entities that do something. And so they were given instruction on what to do and how to do it. And so they were interacting with each other, telling each other what to do. I need a data extraction from the database. And the agent that handled the database said, okay, I will give you that data, blah, blah, blah. And after 30 seconds, they started telling each other a story and playing a game about being in a forest and exploring a campfire, and absolutely crazy. That has no sense, right? But they were generating because the flow of the words brought them to deviate from the original task. And so we have to be very, very cautious in how to control these systems, especially when we do not have control on the data they are trained on. That means the data from which they learned. And so this is particularly important because the control of this system is very complicated, and inputting to these models the right tasks, the right prompt, it's very, very difficult. There is an entire new job category that is called prompt engineering. And so people get paid $100,000 in the United States to learn and to be good into prompting the correct instruction to the large language model to get out of it the correct answer. And it's crazy, right? And so, yeah, this is, I want to close the parenthesis of the hallucinations, but it's a very, very current problem. And we have to be very cautious when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to summarization of clinical notes. Think about making a mistake of a clinical note and saying that the patient is not allergic to a drug. And you suddenly say, oh, but the note says it's not. Yes, but it was. and that's really, really, really dangerous.
Something that was happening. So everybody's talking about automizing notes, making automatic note, etc. So now the LLM applied to medicine are getting better and better. There is MedGemini, that is the Google LLM for medicine, that is extremely good. It can take data. It's called multimodal because it can take video, echo, CT scan, notes, sounds, and it can interpret all the different type of data and give you a text or something exchange. But at the beginning, the issue was that when he was writing the note, because for every patient that was hypertensive, usually a patient that is hypertensive in a large part of the population tends to be diabetic as well. So MedGemini at the beginning, or the preliminary version of that, was putting that all the patient with hypertension was also diabetic. And that's a huge issue because it means that you cannot trust what you're looking at. So it's the generative AI, it's still difficult to control. And this is why we had this massive hype that at the moment everybody is actually stopping a little bit the application of generative AI, and we are getting back into the research field. So I'm extremely aware that we have only 4 minutes. I hope that you're enjoying so far. So you don't mind if you go maybe 2-3 minutes on top of the hour. I think I'm gonna skip the non-clinical part. Well, I'm gonna give you something because I want to show you the table that we made that is actually a little bit more interesting. So the non-clinical aspect, remember always that medicine is not always is not only about patient, but is also about making everything else in the hospital working 24/7. And AI is actually extremely applied there. So imagine about all the supply chain, the HR. And HR, I mean, I was at UCL, a great hospital, but HR was quite difficult, to be honest. Imagine having somebody helping HR to be more fluent and be able to reply to you, even if it's after 2:00, something like that, or contract, etc., insurance, all that part can be actually extremely helpful. So when you're looking outside for potential company, that they are medtech or healthcare company, a lot of them, they are actually at the moment, a lot of the startups are actually creating simple software, usually using a SaaS model, so software as a service model. That means they create the software and they sell it for a subscription to the hospital. It is a B2B model, business to business. And usually it's like, as Gordon was asking, a sort of system for not triaging from a medical perspective, but triaging the patient in the GP. So knowing when to allocate the right patient with the right GP, etc. Trying to automate all this part. So this is really exploding now because it's just application of something in the medical world. And then if you're interested, there is a lot about using AI. We can talk about that maybe later, about drug development and education. As Alia was saying before, a lot of new, now education hopefully is gonna take a huge leap thanks to this kind of technology. Again, be aware that there are the pros and the cons that are always the same. So the last bit that we want to show you is this ugly looking but quite helpful table that is our idea based on the experience of Davide. So our experience is we have 2 years of experience outside of the medical world, outside of the academia. We have our own startup, and we saw what the big and the other groups are looking for. So just for you to have an idea, so the trends that are happening about AI and medtech at the moment we can divide it in 3 big groups, just for you to have a sort of a map. The big companies, and the big companies can be everything from Microsoft, Google, to all the big company that they tends to do tech. They are trying to create the infrastructure that they can sell to the hospital, and they are not really looking into the final product. So to explain that in an easy way, they create all the technological infrastructure for somebody else to build on top of it. And they tend to look to doctors that are usually two type of doctors. The one that have a lot of connection, a lot of networking, and they know a lot about the compliance and all the regulation, or the more technical doctor, the one that have made maybe a master, a PhD, more technical, and that can help them. But also they are quite open to the knowledge of the doctor, because as you can see on the right, the contribution of the doctor is, we think, always the same. So the medical and the translational knowledge of a doctor is something that is extremely rare, that you have to focus and always have to put on, to be proud of. There is then the group of pharma and bioengineering that is a little bit of middle size. This is where the trends are actually using AI for drug development. A lot of generative AI can be used to find in a short amount of time a huge amount of potential molecule for certain treatment, and then they want to apply AI to clinical trial. This is where a doctor with a little bit of research experience or experience in a certain pathology, certain field, can become extremely helpful, because you just need to know how to apply AI to that, and you are the perfect link for that. Then we put prosthesis manufacturing, because it's a little bit of a techie part, so it's actually using AI to take all the measurement and do new type of prosthesis, etc. And then finally, the part of where I think we are more comfortable to talk about, and we are more than happy to chat also outside of this meeting, is about startup as small company. In this case, you have people like me and Davide who are looking for a niche, and they are starting to think about using a certain type of technology to provide a service or a product, etc. And this is where a doctor usually in the medtech became fundamental, independently from the background, but it's extremely important, because the startup or the small companies, they still don't have a lot of organization, and they maybe have a lot of goodwill, but they lack a little bit of discipline. So this is where a doctor needs to be aware of what they are looking for and be able to really sell themselves to the right people. So I hope that this is just a brief overview of what's out there. Of course, there is way much more. But my last concept is that after my 2-3 years of experience in this bridge, I think that as a doctor, we know where the industry, we can really know where the industry, because we are used to study, we know really well medicine. So being a doctor sometimes is perfect to be the bridge between hospital and industry. You just need to find the right way for you to fill in. That's it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very informative. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to hold my hand up and say I'm not a big fan of health tech or AI. Sorry. But I did actually enjoy this. I did actually enjoy this, and it is it's a very interesting field, and obviously it's a very growing field with AI is a very growing field. But I really like what you said towards the end, where you were saying it's not just about the clinical solutions for the patients, but it's also about making the life of everybody in the healthcare system better and more efficient. And it is so true, because we often forget about everyone else, and the focus is clinically about solving patient problems. But if we can use it to solve bigger problems in the healthcare management system, and especially to help with the doctor crisis that is going on at the moment, then that's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. Is there any questions from the audience? Any insights? Any inputs?
No, thank you.
Maybe if we stop sharing the screen.
Sure, I will. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
If I may, I would like to leave you with a thought from the perspective of a data scientist. Who am I, the external here, the stranger in this group? I first entered into hospital as a data scientist to do research and to do clinical studies and to do machine learning. And it took me probably 5-6 minutes to understand that we do not speak the same language. We think differently and we approach problems differently. And it was challenging for me and for the doctors I was talking to understand each other, to use a language that was the same, and we could come up with solutions that were methodologically feasible and realistic, and that were clinically useful. And so there have to be a common ground where your professionality and my professionality comes together. As doctors, no one would ever expect you to be developers, to learn how to develop your own machine learning models. And probably you shouldn't even expect yourself to do that, because there will be a data scientist better than you in doing that. What I recommend you is to be the type of doctor that is able to talk and understand a discussion with the data scientist, and to engage in the discussion, to know what is possible and what is not, what are the broader technologies, how to orient yourself in the domain, so that when will come the moment you have a data scientist in front of you and you have to design a machine learning approach, you have to discuss an AI problem, you have to see how AI can be applied, you can actually be that bridge that understand the medical language and the medical needs of everyday life because you've been there, but also understand the technicalities and the methodologies and what the data scientists need to make this possible. And so that will make you very useful in this domain. And so this is an advice I feel like giving you, because it's the way you can reinvent yourself in a very, very useful way.
Thank you, Davide. And don't worry, they don't bite. They are really nice.
We
and
don't.
always complain that they want more data. So there is nothing that you can do about that.
Nuala.
Oh, sorry, I didn't unmute there. I suppose I was just wondering, like in a system like the NHS where AI could be really helpful, but I presume probably quite expensive, given that it probably has to learn new things kind of all the time. You know, it's not as simple as putting in a program like Microsoft Word that can just sit there and do nothing for like 5 years and continue to be used. Like I assume it has to develop with the need and things like that. I mean, do you think, like, because obviously you're working in that field, do you think there is a reality where it is going to be brought into the health system, like into all aspects of the healthcare system in the next, I don't know, 5-10 years, or just like little by little maybe?
Yeah. So I can tell you from King's College in particular, we have a very, very strong relationship with the Guy's and St. Thomas's Hospital and King's College Hospital here in London. The three of them together are the biggest NHS cluster in the UK. And they are partnering with other companies and university to build the AI infrastructure for the NHS at a national level. And it's a very long-term project. Many millions of pounds of government funding have been granted. It's a very huge effort. And from the public health perspective here in the UK, that surely is the direction. But you still have to consider that they are very big institutions. And so a lot of that passed through universities and research centers, because the timeline of developing an AI tool that is suitable for a clinical deployment in real life take a long time. And usually, if you're not an academic, you don't have that time to wait for the product to be ready or for your research to be ready and the model to be eventually commercialized and to validate at multi-center and to validate internationally and to get FDA approval and these kind of things. And so a lot of these things pass through academia for that reason, but they are also putting a lot of structure in how startups, companies, and little ventures start their journey and try to commercialize products also based on AI, but not only that, into the real NHS world. They just inaugurated a few months ago the London Institute for Biomedical Engineering, Healthcare Engineering at King's, and it's just in the St. Thomas's Hospital campus, and it will be a network and a hub only for startup in the med tech, AI tech field. And so there's a lot going on, and they are opening a lot for startup and small initiatives to start. And yeah, this is an interesting moment to start trying doing that. And there are official channels to go through. Takes time, but
I have a small answer on that, just to add on that. I think that the invasion of AI is going to arrive from the top with exactly the university putting big technology like a multi-center use of CT scan and AI to improve the outcome of stroke, etc. But also there is going to be a sort of back from the bottom. There is going to be all the small startup creating AI for helping to do the clerking of a patient, etc. And this is going to be the two way that the system is going to be colonized. Yeah. But also, I think we are going to see how a lot of new AI tools are going to start to be part of our daily life. So you said like Word, you know to use Word because we were using Word since a long time. So you expect to find Word in the NHS. In 2 years' time, you're going to expect to find a sort of ChatGPT in the NHS. So most probably it's going to be the doctor and the patient that are going to be self-trained to and expecting a certain technology, and that is going to bring the technology in.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Any other question, or do you want to go to watch the match?
Who's playing tonight?
Oh, just England.
Oh no, because I had a message from someone saying good luck to the Netherlands, and I was like, I didn't quite get that.
The Netherlands, actually.
Well, now that you said that there's a match, so it's England and Netherlands. Yeah, okay. I've got a Dutch husband. He's probably tied to the TV.
Yeah. I was saying, just if you want to get in touch and to reach out, we put the QR codes of our LinkedIn profile, which is the best way we can connect if you want to continue the conversation or what, keep in the network and get connected. So if you need, maybe Pietro, if you can share for one last second the last slide, if anyone wants to scan the QR codes. Otherwise, it's whatever is best for you.
And we have done for real this time. Let me find it. No, that's not one. That's it. Sure. Should be there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it. And you're on the group anyways, Pietro.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
all the fellows will have your number anyways, and they can track you down.
Yeah, I want to thank Davide for your time. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you all for your attention. I hope you enjoyed.
That's great. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. You take care and have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the game, whoever you're voting for. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.